I wanted to just state clearly to anyone who wants to listen the implications for what happened in Ireland, for the UK, and why Cameron, who crowed over the Greek crisis, is not crowing over the Irish crisis. In Greece, what had happened is a conservative government before the socialist government had run up huge amounts of hidden deficit spending to hit the economy. What has happened in Ireland, same as what happened in the United States and what happened in the UK, is the banking sector has collapsed. The government has had to bail it out. This bailout was massive and had caused the governments to take on huge debt. Okay? Now, in response to this, conservative movements in the United States, Ireland, and the UK, conservative elements, have seen this as an opportunity to promote an ideological agenda, particularly right now in the UK and amongst the Tea Party in America, to reinstate what you traditionally call a neoliberal, a pre-modernist society where the state could be diminished down to a fraction of its current existence, and that the social society could be moved more and more to private property and private property rights of a sort of mid-19th century alignment, which has been a long-term goal of the Tories. And Cameron, true to form, and it turns out Nick Clegg as well, have used the deficit spending and the lie that somehow the government deficit spending was the cause of the issue rather than the effect, to try to pull this ideological stunt off of huge slashing of spending. The thing is, though, that, and they see this now in Ireland, this is an incredibly risky undertaking, because the fact of the matter is the size of the debts run up on the bank are so massive that actually these government spending issues are really insignificant compared to the state of the government of the bank debts. And specifically in the short term, if the banks in the UK that are underwritten by the UK government, or in Ireland or in the United States, collapse, this would undercut any austerity savings that could possibly be made. And really, these savings are insignificant compared to the bank. But government cuts, austerity measures, could have the effect of pushing the economy further into recession. Ireland adopted austerity early on and entered a much deeper, more prolonged economy for various reasons, not just austerity, but it entered a deeper recession than the UK did under Gordon Brown, significantly deeper, almost twice the unemployment, okay? This is probably what made the banks more shaky, the loans more shaky. What David Cameron has done in taking the UK down this road to rapid austerity and cutting for this ideological purposes rather than economic purposes is he has actually put the recovery at significant risk. A large percentage of the UK population is going to lose their job. And I can tell you from firsthand experience living over here, the way the government is treating its employees right now is something out of a Dickens novel. It's rather bullyish and abusive. People are being taunted and made to feel insecure and humiliated on a regular basis. The government is lashing out and bullying at its own public sector staff, who are underpaid compared to the private sector staff. Many of these staff have been in the public sector, only have these skills in these areas, there'd really be no private sector options. So if they lose their jobs, as many of them will, they'll just end up going on to the long-term unemployed. So Cameron is knowing that he's going to push the unemployment up. If the private sector in the UK does not grow fast enough to cover these lost jobs, the UK moves into a deeper, back into recession, then the housing situation, which has been fairly better in the UK, definitely better than in Ireland and the United States, could go under. There could be more delinquency on personal debts. This could cause the banks in the UK to really start to shake and potentially topple. That would mean that all the austerity measures would be just utterly eaten up by the need for more bailouts of the bank, which could definitely push the UK into the same situation Ireland is, of the EU coming in. But if the EU comes in on Cameron, after the way Cameron has talked, telling all you Tories out there, if what happened to Ireland happens to the UK under Cameron, you are, pardon my French, utterly, totally fucked. I mean, you will be forced to go on the euro. There will be very, very hostile measures taken towards you. You will lose an enormous amount of sovereignty. So right now, you're in a one situation. You had better hope that the economy, private sector, picks up enough somehow to make up for the cuts, the radical cuts in government spending that this utterly inexperienced, untried team of Osborne, Clegg, and Cameron are doing. Because if they don't, and it comes in that the EU and the IMF have to bail out, there's a very strong chance that you will be using EU money with the Queen only printed on the back of it, that the England could be on the euro, because the conditions of a European bailout of England, given the way Cameron has the relations Cameron has established with the EU, would be extremely ugly. I think Tories should stop for a minute from this repeated myth that government waste, government waste, government waste. Stop to think of the situation they are actually really in. There's the foreclosure risk. The risk to the UK economy is not the government debt. Britain can still borrow. Britain's bond rates are low enough. It can borrow money to cover that for quite some time at good rates. The risk is that the UK banks could start to teeter the way that the Irish banks did. And that's really, and your only hope is that a private sector with a weak consumer, okay, and decreasing government spending and banks that aren't loaning somehow manages to get enough strength to increase jobs in the face of also massive economic efficiencies. It makes me want to get, but even though I've been here quite some time working, it makes me want to think about getting my ticket back to the States if that situation was any better over there. It's risky, and just like the Americans when they went for a young, tried, untried conservative in George Bush, the British have basically taken a massive chance on their future with an untried conservative toff. And let's hope that the British have better luck than the Americans did, hey?